Hey guys, welcome to my first Q&A episode here with Jim Ware, and we're going to go through your questions and I will try to answer them as crisp and to the point as possible. Anyway, so question number one. By the way, all the authors are kept anonymous. That's the deal we made with all you guys, so in case you didn't want your name out there. But question one, have you read anything or seen anything comparing force velocity profiles using incrementally loaded vertical jumps to profiles created using incrementally loaded sled sprints? Does the force and velocity trait correlate at all? Well, there's a cool article. It's by Martin, Jean Benoit, and Samazino Pierre. It's 2015. I'm sure if you looked up interpreting force, power, force, velocity profiles, you'll see a really cool article where they did that. But I will tell you this: you're probably going to be, doing yourself just as good as if you would just do any basic strength movement, whether it's squat, whether it's a pull, trap bar, deadlift. And here's why: is because there's just so much data out there that correlates, vertical force to horizontal force and speed and athletic ability. So the key, with the profiling, if you take like a squat, for example, and you go from, 0 all the way up to 100%, and you see like, where you're weak, you're going to see, are you this really strong, slow? Are you this really fast but weak? Or somewhere in the middle, it means, you're very powerful. So the key is to find that out, and then to do, whatever kind of testing you want. In the research article I mentioned, they did a lot of ballistic push-off jumps, and they did a lot of some sled sprints, and then they did a lot of sprints, and they really did correlate really well. So you're probably going to do yourself just as much good by simply seeing where in the gym, in the strength movements, would you fall on that force velocity curve, and then do your event. If sprinting is important, make sure you're doing that, but see where in the gym you're weak and focus on that. That's, it's as simple as that. But you could, if you read the article I talked about, you could go from a unloaded sprint all the way up to a maximal 10-meter sprint, I guess. But I feel like by the time it would take to do that, based on the research I read, I feel like you'd be better off just to do it with a squat or a pull, and then go do your craft, because you're going to have to practice sprinting regardless. You're not going to do some type of you're not going to get a readout to where it says you don't need to sprint, because if that's important to you, then you're going to need to sprint, because no one is fast enough. People are strong enough, but I don't think there's anybody on earth that's, quote unquote fast enough. So, and we do need to, when you stick to the SAID principle, that specific adaptation to impose demands, do the thing that you need to improve on, find the place in the gym you need to improve on, and improve on that. So it's that simple. And the research, and also Carl Valley, I don't know if you guys follow him. I love the dude on Twitter, but he wrote an article for Simply Faster, and he talks a lot about it. So you can look that up too. But it's something that not many of you are doing, but it's definitely something that you should. Force velocity profiling, finding where you need to fit in or where you need to focus on, it's important. One thing I would recommend too would probably also looking at doing your force velocity profile with whatever strength movement you want, and then doing a depth jump. I feel like that, if you did those two things and then actually go do your sprinting and your vertical leap testing, I feel like you will find exactly where you need to focus. If you do with the Gym Ware, you can do the reactive strength index, which is just, it's a depth jump, and it's going to be looking at ground contact time to how high you jump. So you're going to it's really looking at, are you elastic? So, are your joints, elastic? Are your muscle spindles and your Golgi tendon organ, is that neuromuscular system firing properly? Or do you need to work on getting stronger? So if you have a low ground contact time but a very short jump height, get strong. If you have a super high jump height but yet you're taking a long time on the ground, then get elastic, do more bounding, do those go read Keith Barr and really work on your tendons. So anyway, question number 2. What kind of rep ranges have you seen with velocity cutoff sets at 20%? And it says, do you think velocity cutoffs work with power exercises like trap bar jumps or Olympic lifts? Let me answer part 1. So the rep ranges, if you're worried about keeping a 20% cutoff, that means you're trying to really stick to a fast twitch. You're trying to create a powerful, explosive, and fast athlete. So therefore, I probably would keep the reps at 5 and down, because if you any of you follow Andy Galpin, Dr. Andy Galpin, my buddy, he would tell you that those are the reps that are going to create the most power, the most force. When you start doing a ton of reps, 10 reps, it doesn't really matter what cutoff you're putting yourself, because you're that's a very slow movement, and you're going to create some muscle, but you're not going to create fast twitch fibers unless you're really doing 10 reps super fast. And I just don't feel like you'd be better off to really focus on that 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, reps, and really do really good, crisp, explosive, all out reps. Really work on compensatory acceleration, making sure that you get, maximal fiber recruitment and getting good rate of force development. So the reason why, by the way, anyone is wondering, if you start going over 20%, let's say your first rep is at 0.5 meters per second, and then your final rep is at 0.25, then you've it's 50% you've cut. And so that's great for max hypertrophy, but the research would show us, especially if you talk to Brian Mann, that's a lot of slow twitch. And so you're getting bigger, like bodybuilders are getting huge, but they're not going to be very explosive and fast. So sticking to that 20%, 20% cutoff allows you to get hypertrophy, but it's going to be fast. Once again, that SAD principle is pretty smart. Also, the second part of his question, do you think velocity cutoffs work with power exercises like trap bar jumps or Olympic lifts? I don't think so, because you got to ask yourself, why are you doing those movements? I'm not doing a clean to get, maximal hypertrophy. I am expressing power. Same thing with the trap bar jump. You get strong, it's good. You're squatting, you're pulling, you get all this power. And then I express said power from doing the jumps, doing the Olympic lifts. So we're never, and plus with the Olympic lifts, if that velocity cuts off 20%, you're not going to be able to do the movement. So, there's X percent that's required just to get the bar high enough to get to your chest. So, I would probably just leave the 20% cutoff for the strength movement, squatting, pulling, pressing. All right. What lifts are the best for VBT, and what are the ranges for the lifts? What are the rep ranges, I guess, for the lifts? I don't know that there's any lifts that are bad. It's I will say this: it's easier to apply and implement, like squatting, deadlifting, pressing, a row, anything that's like the typical, eccentric, concentric contractions. I think with Olympic lifts, or even, jumps not so hard, but the Olympic lifts, it's so height dependent, meaning to get the bar to a certain height, all that's required is a peak velocity. The average is really irrelevant, because if you look at some of the Asian lifters, it'll look like they're deadlifting until the last second, and then they fire in that power position unlike anybody else, and then their speed can still whip them under the bar. So if you're going to do the Olympic lifts, what you're going to want to do, I believe, especially if you coach athletes like mine who are really, really good at it, you're going to want to get an individual profile. And so that's what I do. I know Brian Mann has done some pretty cool stuff with the Olympic lifts, but it just doesn't seem to fit, because he's, none of those people were, Olympic caliber weightlifters where they're trying to be the best in the world. So it's better to get the individual, feedback and profiles on those lifts, I believe. Not really so much for jumps, because you don't need a certain height of the bar, but so those would be fine. But when it comes to what are the ranges, it just depends on. Oh, that's a great question because it depends on what your goals are. So like if nothing has really changed, like if you want max hypertrophy and you don't care about how fast somebody is, then yeah, do tens by all means. And if you listen to Andy Galpin, you'll get a lot of metabolic stress. You'll get an awesome pump, and there'll be some muscle damage, but if you want to get if you want to get powerful, then maybe not. Then maybe focus on that 6 reps and down, and focus on getting stronger and how fast you're moving the bar. So really, there is no rep range I can tell you that's the best. It depends on are you a baseball player, then in what position you play in baseball. If you're a catcher, there's going to be some endurance involved in that squat position all day long. If you're a home run hitter, you need to be explosive, especially in that transverse plane. So it just depends. All that velocity does is quantify whatever it is that you're trying to do. So with me, I'm trying to be the most powerful athletes in the world. With weightlifting, power is everything. So we need to train on both ends of the spectrum. We got to get stronger, but then we have to express that power. And if one of my athletes is really good at being strong, but they're slow, then when it comes to ranges and what's best, it's different for that athlete than the person like Ryan who's already explosive and fast, if that makes sense. We're probably going to do this. The person who's strong and slow, we're going to do plyometrics or barbell jumps. And so then we need to make sure that, depending on how much weight's on his or her back, I need to see how fast it's going to make sure that I am focusing on that quality of strength. So anyway, I hope that makes sense, and I hope that helps you guys. I really enjoy these Q&As. So maybe we should do this more often. Now that I finally got the first one under my belt, I think we should do this more often. But anyway, I look forward to the next time. Thank you guys.